Welcome to our 20th anniversary celebration of the opening of EMSL. We are here to celebrate EMSL's 20 years of outstanding science leadership. I have been director for only just 1 year, so I'm proud of our accomplishment, but know that I'm not responsible for making them to happen. For that, I have to thank all the scientists and the scientists before them here today, and quite a few of the staff and scientists are in the audience. Thank you. EMSL was founded to focus on environmental molecular science. It has made major progress in understanding of subsurface contaminants transport, microbial mineral interactions, carbon cycling, and biological systems, and also Earth's surface processes. During the last 20 years, nearly 6,000 scientific articles have been published. Much of this progress has been achieved in collaboration with our users and from across the nation and around the world. So I want to thank everyone involved in this great endeavor. Our users, EMSL's outstanding scientists, staff, supporting staff, and Pnnl management and support. I want to thank our local community, Washington State, and our DOE sponsors for their constant support and encouragement. At this point, I would like to invite our Steve Ashby, Pnnl Laboratory Director, to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Liu-En, and welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us in the celebration. I'd like to welcome you all to the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, and where for 20 years we've had the honor and privilege of hosting the EMSL, or the William R. Wiley Environmental Molecular Sciences Laboratory, on behalf of the Department of Energy's Office of Biological and Environmental Research. We're pleased to see those leaders represented here as well. The groundwork to establish EMSL actually dates back to the mid-1980s under the leadership of then Pnnl Director Bill Wiley. EMSL was Bill's vision, but I'd also like to acknowledge many of you in this room, as Liu-En did, who played an important role over the course of a decade that it took to turn that vision into this facility and the science that has engendered for 20 years and will into the indefinite future. Others of you are scientists and support professionals who advanced EMSL's mission by leading seminal investigations, collaborating with the broad scientific community, and facilitating access to EMSL's unique capabilities in instrumentation are all key to that success that we're celebrating today. And today, 2 decades and 4 editions later, EMSL is highly regarded across the global research community as a premier scientific user facility where molecular level insights are driving transformations in the environment, energy, and biological fields, to name just 3. EMSL scientists have long been recognized internationally for their efforts to characterize and turn radioactive waste stored underground to understand its performance and what we can do to mitigate its impacts. Today, scientists are leveraging this capability in subsurface science and a vast understanding of terrestrial ecosystems to tap microbial communities for the production of biofuels and other useful products in service of mankind. Fundamental discoveries here at EMSL are also providing important clues about how certain proteins contribute to infectious disease, resulting in breakthroughs that can help advance human health. Other discoveries here are elucidating the behavior of batteries, so we might yield better performing batteries in the future for the service of our ubiquitous electronic toys and devices. With more than 700 users annually from across the United States and the world, there's no doubt that EMSL has global reach and impact. But EMSL has also had a very positive impact here at home, in our community, and in particular at the laboratory, where it's contributed significantly to Pnnl's growth and maturation to world-class scientific institution. Many scientists initially hired as EMSL staff have become internationally recognized scientific leaders and senior managers at the laboratory. And I recognize that those two categories are not always overlapping. So we're very grateful for the scientific leaders, and I hope you're grateful for the senior managers at least once in a while. Notice my expectations are reasonable. EMSL research has been translated into substantial growth in our reputation through a vast number of peer-reviewed publications that have come out of the laboratory, what it's done to really advance our culture of scientific and engineering excellence, and has served to increase our reputation and that of the Department of Energy as really the place where science happens in this country. Over the last 20 years, EMSL scientists and users from around the world, from more than 40 countries, have made thousands of contributions that have greatly increased the body of knowledge in the environmental, energy, and biological sciences. Congratulations on 2 decades of notable scientific impact. I'm proud to be affiliated with all that you have accomplished, grateful to my predecessors for their vision, and I look forward to witnessing the important discoveries that you're about to make tomorrow and into the years to come. At this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Julie Erickson, the Deputy Manager for DOE's Pacific Northwest Site Office, our partner in all that we do here. Please join me in welcoming Julie.
Thank you, Steve. On behalf of the Department of Energy and the Pacific Northwest Site Office, it is definitely my pleasure to be here today to help celebrate this anniversary of this amazing facility. Being able to share the science is something that's very important to us at the site office. You know, we care a lot about the operations of the laboratories, and making sure that we have facilities like this to do the science work is one of our most valuable roles that we have. And so it's great to see it have been here for so long and continue to do such amazing work. Looking back to the beginning of EMSL, this really represented, I believe, DOE's commitment to PNNL. Prior to EMSL, the only federal facilities that PNNL utilized were on the Hanford site, and many of those really weren't designed for the quality of science that we need to do today, or even that we needed to do 20 years ago. And so this was the first new facility. You've seen a lot of other new facilities come online in the last several years, and that's wonderful that the department, I think, continues that commitment to PNNL and to modernize our capabilities here. It's also really great to see so many of the EMSL pioneers here, people that really have helped get EMSL where it is today, and continue to be our biggest supporters. Even if they've retired and moved on to other things, I know that they're still supporting us. It's also wonderful to see all of our new scientists and collaborators here and helping us celebrate this opportunity, and knowing that they'll continue to use this premier facility for many years to come. It is now my pleasure to introduce another one of my DOE colleagues representing the Office of Biological and Environmental Research, the Director of Climate and Environmental Sciences Division, Gary Gerhardt.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Gary Gerhardt. I'm representing the Office of Science at this event, and this is really a special event for me in particular because I've been at DOE now for almost 8 years. And within my division, we have 2 user facilities which fall into our portfolios. Ironically, both of them are at PNNL, so it actually puts PNNL in a special category for me personally, but also for the division and BER. I wanted to make a couple of comments about the history and the importance of the people that made this all happen, because user facilities are a special breed within Office of Science and across DOE, because they are something which get a little bit more protection in the budgets They get a lot more attention within the review processes, which are sometimes unfortunate for the management of these facilities. But it's something which we view to be extremely important, and was something which we view to be sustained in the long term. It creates, let's say, an image of DOE's commitment to science that it's not just a short-term grant or a 3-year project, but these are problems that are taken on that demand long, decadal scales of resources which continue into the future, and that the leadership of these facilities are visionaries, they're ambitious, they're striving for the future, they're collaborative, they have all the characteristics which make them leaders in the field, and they strive for the future. So we really respect not just what the laboratories do, but for what the leaders do on behalf of DOE and also for the scientific community. Going beyond that, I think I have to make a few comments about the origins of EMSL. And I know Steve made a few comments about Bill Wiley, but when you think about trying to create something new, it's not just something which you're deriving from representation from the scientific community, but you have to be able to work with a troika of entities simultaneously to make that happen. And it often takes a laboratory director to do that. And I'm pointing to Steve because he's facing these types of challenges all the time. But if you go back in time, each of the laboratory directors at Pnnl or other laboratories face the same kind of challenges. One has to not just represent the scientific community and the vision and ambitions which they're trying to achieve, but you got to work with DOE. And DOE is not easy to deal with. And I know that because I've been there for 8 years. I worked at Los Alamos before, and it's a different animal in Washington, D.C. But it's not just DOE, it's also the appropriators. And we have representatives from the appropriators here in Congress, because nothing happens without that funding being committed by Congress. So being able to work as a troika between science community, the agencies in Washington, D.C., and I'm talking about DOE in this case, and also Congress, it demands a special type of personality. Someone who can work with and collaborate across different types of institutions, speak differently to each of the institutions, and gain their support. It's really a tough job. And Wiley is one of those guys who was able to do that. So I think we have to really elevate the stature of this guy, because he did something that very few people were capable of doing. Something else which he had to do was find the first directors. And the first director is a challenge to execute this plan. And that also is not an easy task. So Tom Dunning, of course, was the first director. He made a comment yesterday that he was happy it succeeded its first year. It went to its second year, went to multiple years, but he sets a legacy for the succeeding directors, which they have to be able to uphold. And that's not easy for the successive directors. So you set an example for these successive directors, which is hard to satisfy. And it goes on down to Jean Fertrell, Bill Rogers, Allison, of course, who is here. She's been elevated within Pnnl, and now Leanne. But each of these directors looks to all their predecessors and say, how am I going to do as well as they did, or do even better? And where we are today is we have a series of directors which have really pushed the envelope, made EMSL what it is as a leading capability in the world, striving for the future. They're adaptive, they are pushing the envelope, and they're working with all of the constituencies to really make this happen. And I applaud them for everything they've done, and I applaud the Pnnl directors, the appropriators in Congress, and I'm going to be a little careful about my DOE counterparts, but all of us too, we're trying to play a role too. And I also want to mention a pioneer who's in the audience, that's Paul Bayer. He is a program manager working with me. He's been here from the beginning, so he's one of the few pioneers in DOE representing facilities, so I want to at least acknowledge him as well. So going to the future, this is really, we're entering a tough era these days because science is getting very complex. And Kirsten made a point this morning that science is no longer disciplinary. It is multidisciplinary. We're going into an era where that there's a fuzzy boundary between biology and chemistry, physics, earth sciences. All of that is very fuzzy. So when you enter the world of EMSL, and where EMSL is starting to drive the scientific culture, it's a matter of looking at science broad and not very narrow discipline. So I applaud them for everything they've done in that well. So it's a world of complexity, interdisciplinarity, and the blending of computing, modeling, experiment, and theory to really make this happen. So I'm going to stop here because I can ramble on. And maybe you go to and introduce our next speaker. That's Honorable Dan Newhouse. He is the representing the appropriators, actually a series of appropriators. And I'm going to step off the stage. Thank you very much, everybody.
I just want to take the prerogative to add a few words to that introduction. So we're very pleased to have several members of our delegation with us in terms of our member or staff representing them. And Representative Newhouse has been a great partner to this laboratory and to science more generally. And we really appreciate all the work that you've done, Dan, for the DOE programs and for this laboratory in particular and for our community, particularly over the last several months, which have been challenging. And so it's an honor to have you with us today. And so please join me again in welcoming Representative Newhouse.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the invitation to be with you on this momentous occasion. So congratulations. I also want to thank you for holding it indoors this morning. But certainly an honor to be with you today. And I want to give a good welcome to our Department of Energy representatives for their frank comments. This is recorded, you know, as far as. So in my very humble opinion, and honestly, my goal is to visit other labs in the country. But I think that what we have here in the Tri-Cities at Pnnl is probably the foremost national laboratory in the country. It has been for over 50 years. And one of the reasons for that is because of the powerhouse that we have at EMSL. I was corrected, don't say the EMSL. So I'll try to be proper vernacular, but it's a unique place. It's a home to state-of-the-art equipment that you just don't find anywhere. I mean, it's a very special thing that we have available. The work that's done here to advance the scientific achievement and to assist other scientists tackle tough problems in a range of things, including environmental cleanup at Hanford, as was mentioned, but also improving energy storage devices, work on diseases, just a whole host of questions that are posed to us today. This is a part of the success of small businesses in the region, certainly in the state of Washington. So if you look from the Tri-Cities to Seattle to the Olympic Peninsula, spanning the creation of those batteries or being a farmer, that measurement of soil nutrients in the soil profile, which is particularly important. Companies all over have made use of the kinds of equipment and instruments available here in housing over 650 annual users. That's an amazing number. And certainly that impacts the economy of the local Tri-Cities area in a very positive way, just that alone. So I'm a particularly proud supporter of EMSL. And as you said, over the last couple of months, that has not been an easy load to carry in the Appropriations Committee. I am now a member of the Energy and Water Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee. You're not the only ones that can have long names to things. And I and others worked very hard to restore funding for the Office of the Sciences and Biological Environmental Research Program, which include funds for EMSL, as well as the Earth System Science here at Pnnl. So I'm pleased that through that work at the committee in the House, led to the restoration of over $200 million for the BER program in the committee's FY18 appropriations bill. So that's a significant improvement. And that includes the funding for BER scientific user facilities, which this is a part of that. So as many of you know, the House passed the Energy and Water appropriations bill as part of a larger package. Now goes to the Senate for them to do that voodoo that they do so well. And so we're hopeful. We are hopeful that we can continue having a strong statement of support. So there remains a lot of work to be done. There's no question in our, as you all know, this nation faces some very serious fiscal questions and issues that we all will be a part of the solution. But I hope that through your work and our ability to present the positive results of work being done at institutions like this, that we still have the foresight to invest in our future as a nation and as a world. So thank you again for having me be part of this, and congratulations on 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Newhouse. It's a real honor to have you with us today. As I mentioned earlier, we are very fortunate at Pnnl and in the Tri-Cities to have a very supportive congressional delegation writ large. I think I remember an all-staff message I put out reminding you that the entire delegation across the state was kind enough to write a letter to the President in support of the wonderful things we do here at this laboratory, including EMSL. We're also very fortunate today to have representatives from both Senator Murray and Senator Cantwell, who could not be here personally, but wanted to make sure they had remarks. I'll introduce those in a second. I will have a hard time, however, getting out whenever I see the senators, the notion of voodoo things going on. If I do slip in mentioning that, I'll be sure to give proper credit, as any scientist would, in referencing my sources. So with that, what I'd like to do here is thank you very much. And I'd like to ask you in joining me in welcoming Sean Bills, who is the State Director for Senator Murray.
Thank you for having me here on behalf of Senator Patty Murray. She regrets she cannot be here today. She's actually in Seattle on a naval vessel as part of a naturalization event welcoming 10 service members and as they gain citizenship to the US. So she's over there enjoying the same air quality that we have here today. And I think pretty much everything that she would have said has been said very well, very better than I can. But I could get into a little bit of the voodoo. Not too much, though. I worked for Senator Murray in DC for 6 years, including managing her appropriations process. And she, of course, is going to continue to always be a staunch advocate for the Tri-Cities, for Pnnl, and for all of the funding that you need to continue the vision that has been created here. She could not be more pleased to have Congressman Newhouse in his new role in the House Appropriations to help and be a partner in this as well. Going back for decades, this funding for Pnnl, funding for Hanford cleanup, it has never been a partisan issue. It's been doing what's right, both on the cleanup side, but also to ensure that we're looking forward at what this community is going to be moving forward, at the vision and infrastructure that you need to be a technological hub for the future. Senator Murray supports that wholeheartedly. That's why, as going back to the voodoo, when the administration releases their budget, Congress typically looks at it, thinks about it, sets it aside, maybe takes a few things, then does what they feel like doing themselves. The House created a much better budget, in my humble opinion, for Pnnl, and the Senate as well has put up much better numbers that come closer to hitting your needs. And we're going to continue fighting for that through the end of this fiscal year, and working with you all, with the community leaders like TRIDAC that do a great job advocating on your behalf in DC every time they go back. So on behalf of Senator Murray, thank you. We'll continue working with you and appreciate being here to celebrate.
Thank you, Sean. And now I'd like to invite Rick Evans, who's the Central Washington Outreach Director for Senator Cantwell, to say a few words.
Good morning. My name is Rick Evans. I'm the Central Washington Director for Senator Cantwell. Unfortunately, the Senator is unable to be here with us today, but I do have a letter I'd like to read on her behalf to mark the occasion. Dear friends, congratulations as you celebrate 20 years of discovery and groundbreaking research at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory's Environmental Molecular Science Laboratory. I want to thank Dr. Paul Bayer and Dr. Luann Lang for their leadership and dedication to science that improves lives and our environment. After 20 years, EMSL remains a state-of-the-art user facility offering scientists at PNNL and around the world advanced experimental equipment, supercomputing capabilities, and a molecular science brain trust. The scientists at EMSL are dedicated to advancing our understanding of the basic biological and chemical processes fundamental to the universe and critical to solving today's energy and environmental problems. By studying natural processes at the molecular level, spanning the course of mere nanoseconds to entire days, EMSL has increased our understanding of atmospheric aerosols, biosystem dynamics, molecular transformations, and terrestrial and subsurface ecosystems. Their work has uncovered how wetlands immobilize uranium, how fungi can degrade wood, and a photochemical way to enable the synthesis of gold nanocrystals. In Congress, I am committed to strengthening our commitment to fundamental research and scientific exploration. Scientific discoveries at EMSL and other user facilities throughout the National Laboratory System sponsored by the Department of Energy, Fuel Innovation strengthen American competitiveness and create jobs. I am proud to support the scientists at PNNL and EMSL who are committed to scientific discovery and using their research to find solutions to problems facing the American people. Thank you all for coming out to celebrate the important progress EMSL has made over the past 2 decades. You have my best wishes for continued advancement for the next 20 years. Warmest regards, Maria Cantwell, United States Senator. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Users are our prime focus, so it is fitting that as we celebrate our 20th anniversary, we hear from EMSL users. So I'm delighted to introduce Lucia Sherman. He's a professor from Purdue University, and he's also our current chair for User Executive Committee. Lou.
Thank you, Luan, and everyone here. So I have now graduated to become the chair of the User Executive Committee, as it's called. And so I'm here on behalf of the thousands of users that have made great use of this facility. I first came here in late 2004 as we began to put together ideas for what became the Membrane Biology Grand Challenge that Himadri Pekrasi mentioned yesterday. And it was a true revelation coming here to see all the wonderful world-class equipment and the marvelous staff that was here that could allow us to do true world-class science. It never even knew such a place existed. It was wonderful. Part of our task for the Grand Challenge was to take a large group of external users and a big group of staff working with the equipment and meld everybody together so that the staff could do great science in addition to work the machines. And for those who were here this morning to hear the last 3 talks about what's going on now, we can see that all of that was a marvelous success, that the staff is capable of doing truly world-class, unique science, and EMSL is positioned to be one of the great places in the world. And an analogy that was given earlier was it's like driving a Lamborghini, and that's the way I feel every time I come to the lab. It's really a unique resource. So I first want to thank all of the staff for the dedication and all the wonderful work that you do on behalf of all the users. Being part of the User Executive Committee, we get to interface more with everybody here and to help facilitate the interface between the users and the staff. And I know the staff is just considered to be marvelous by everyone. I also want to thank all of the congressional staff and, of course, DOE for the funding that they've put into of this laboratory over the years, and hope that it can be continued and even enhanced. You know, we're celebrating a 20th anniversary, but for those of us who have heard all the talks, it's clear that it took more than 20 years to put this all together. Began a decade before, and some of the people are still involved with all of that. So building up such a facility is not easy, and being at the top is precarious. And so it's going to need a continued influx, new equipment of people, and of course funding to maintain that, so that we can come back in 5, 10, 20 years and say, happy birthday, EMSL, you've done a great job. Thank you.
So we have now reached the final part of our celebration. Over the years, hundreds of EMSL and Pnnl staff and thousands of users have involved, all essential to EMSL's science. There are many particular groups I like to mention. I like to thank the founding team led by Bill Wiley, the groups who developed the initial facility design and the financial planning, the team of people from many parts of the lab who dealt with reviews, proposal writing, presentations, scheduling, recruiting, and the many other activities necessary to grow EMSL, the building, the user program, and the research activities. The team who identified and designed the initial EMSL instrument capabilities, the engineering and facility teams who supervised and verified the construction project, the researchers who moved and set up all capabilities in EMSL, the facility, the more than 100 staff members who started EMSL as a brand new user facility. We thank them all. This meeting could not have happened without the efforts of many people who worked enormously hard behind the scenes. I particularly like to thank Don Bear, over there, Don, for his heavy lifting, and Nathan Johnson for his artful graphic design. You have all seen outside in the poster. For John Nisich from communication support, Alison Coyne and Blake Wright for their logistic support, and many, many more. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks to you too for joining this 20th anniversary celebration. Our next step is to look into EMSL's future. We need to be focused, and we will be flexible to lead science in our fields. If we can do as well as we have done during the past 20 years, then the future is bright. Now we like to have a ceremony for the cake cutting. So it's my pleasure now to thank Paul Bear, the DOE manager who has been associated with EMSL ever since he started operation 20 years ago, for all his amazing support over so many years. We appreciate it more than we can say. So thank you so much, Paul. And please now cut the first slice of the cake for us.
So I'm going to cut the cake, but as the signs on the door say, there's no eating in here. If I understand it, after I cut the first piece, then the cake is going to be.
Yes. After cutting the cake, we will celebrate in the lobby, and the refreshment will be available in the lobby.
stickler for rules.
So just a quick word. It's been wonderful to be here and to celebrate with all of you 20 plus years of scientific discovery and technological advances that have made EMSL and really all of you and many of your predecessor scientists here and staff have made that possible. And I'm looking forward to working with the UN going forward to continue that tradition and that exciting science that's clearly relevant for a lot of DOE and national problems. And, so thank you. So we cut the cake and we'll keep going.